Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gore column in which we take the time to speak to small cap executives after they put out important news. And I don't know if we can even call this important news. It's blockbuster news. And what we're going to be talking about today with Marshall Gunter, the CEO of Datametrex AI, trades in Canada under DM for our friends in the US, DTMXF, and for our friends in Europe, D4G on Frankfurt. For those new to the story, Datametrex has the rare benefit that most small cap companies only dream of by having two successful independent divisions that are each capable of being a company maker. So more just lip service, let's go right to the numbers. Q3 revenue, $10.8 million, up 120+%. I'm rounding. 9-month revenue, 40.3 mil. Gross profit, 19.3 mil. EBITDA, 13.6 million. It's unbelievable hitting out of the park. And the two divisions are, first, their artificial intelligence driven social media monitoring and discovery product, amongst other things. And the second one is the COVID-19 test kit distribution, which has supplied a lot of those revenues. But now it's the AI side that's really kicking in, because here's the headline: Datametrex selected to proceed on government project worth a total of $40 million. Marshall, welcome back, my friend.
Glad to be back, George. And certainly on that note, I am super excited to be here.
You should be. By the way, Happy New Year to you, your family, the whole Datametrex team. What a way to start the new year for shareholders, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And for the staff. This is just a validation of everything we've been doing for the past couple of years, and of, even of the COVID effort. As we expressed earlier, everything that we've done on that side to help Canadian businesses, the government, and all the profits have been pushed back into the AI, into our core business. And now it really shows.
Yeah, and you just started the year firing, because we call this Beyond the Press Release, but you've got 3 amazing press releases, and we're just finishing up what essentially is the second week of the year. So I can't wait to see what you have in store with us for the next 2 weeks. Let's talk about the first one. Sure. Datametrex selected to proceed on $40 million government project. The press release clearly states, due to confidentiality reasons, there's not a lot you can talk about, but we do know something new here, and that it involves the Datametrex social media automated reporting technology, SMART. Can you talk to us a little bit about, I know you can't give specifics, but why SMART is so valuable to governments in general around the world?
Well, SMART is super valuable for a very specific reason, is it reduces something called time to insight. Now, let me express that a little more simply. Is when we're dealing with tons and tons of data, the idea is to make something actionable out of it. Like, I mean, it's great if I have all the data on Earth, but if I can't do anything with it, it's useless. Okay. Now, what SMART does with all the automation is reduce that time to insight. So instead of having, say, to read 100 documents and it's going to take me 8 hours to figure out what's going on, etc., SMART can do all that for you, summarize it, send it over to you in a text or an email, and do it while you're drinking your coffee. And so you will have that time to insight and that actionable thing within minutes or even seconds in some cases, and not hours. And that is invaluable, not just for, governments or anything, but even for businesses. So if you can be 20 minutes ahead of the next guy, or a day ahead of the next guy, that's money in the bank. And that's the reason that SMART is so important.
And SMART before today has had a lot of success. I mean, it's been growing and growing in its success, but this isn't like the first win for SMART at the end of the day. You've been brought in by some US government agencies, some other Canadian government agencies, right? So the word is getting out, because I quote here, you say, it represents a pivot to attract other high profile customers. So is that what you fully expect to happen? Because SMART has been growing, but this is like the big crowning event for it?
Well, it's not just I don't want to consider it a crowning event, because I don't think we've gone that far yet, just to be brutally honest.
Or an inflection an inflection.
Well, it is an inflection point. I would call it that, but I would call it more validation. Okay. Because SMART works, and we know it works. It was built in conjunction with some really intelligent people, both in and out of the Canadian, US governments, NATO, et cetera. So this has, been an ongoing process, but for this to come up and to be one of the centerpieces of a contract like this really validates the work that Datametrex has done, how well this software works, and where we can go with it.
What does it say about the third party validation to announce something like that? Because look, a lot of people have great technology, and most of us don't know how to validate. Most of us, even some of the experts, really don't know how to compare apples to apples, because AI is constantly growing, constantly evolving. What does it say about third party validation here that you guys are able to announce this to the world?
Well, what it says is the product works. And you're absolutely right. I mean, AI and computer science in general moves at like the speed of light, and it's only accelerating. I mean, it gets faster every day. I mean, if you remember 10 years ago, I mean, even 10 years ago, nobody was even talking about AI. It was all big data, right? And so it's big data, big data, big data. Now it's AI, AI, AI. I don't think anybody tracks big data anymore, but this is how fast things move. And for third parties to be willing to invest and pay for and come after our software the way they are, that just tells us that we're on the right track. We're delivering something that is valuable to our clientele, and they're willing to do it. And we believe that we can take that value and expand that clientele and expand that company. And that's where I think that this is really validated.
We know that AI is going to be, I don't even know, you see estimates about where AI is going to grow to this decade, and the numbers are just ginormous. So you don't even know how to sometimes quantify them. But let's talk about specifically about social media automated reporting, maybe that small slice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys foresee, or do you see that from a pipeline or speaking to your potential customers? How big do you guys foresee that market just for your smart product growing in the next 2-3 years? I don't want to say 10 years, but I've got to assume social media is growing. The need for smart is going to grow exponentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And social media has not slowed down. So, and the nice thing about our system is it's adaptable and it's easily adaptable. So, as social media changes, whether it's internally, like say, Facebook changes the way they do things, they change feeds, et cetera, or, the Twitters of the world, or if there's new platforms. And we're seeing this, the rise of TikTok over the past few years. We can adapt to those different platforms. Yeah. Discord is another one. Everybody's on Discord now. But no, social media is not slowing down. In fact, it's speeding up. And one of the challenges over the past couple of years, and one of the reasons AI has been used to do it, is because social media is producing more data than we can consume. So, with a technology like Smart, you're able to get your head around this, right? You're able to do it, and you're able to do it very, very, very quickly.
Yeah, instead of getting lost in the wash in the sea of data, at least with Smart, I can say, okay, just take Smart, take out what people are saying about Agoracom, about Agoracom's clients, and about Agoracom's competitors, which that alone is worth is worth its weight in gold.
That's right. And you can find that gold right inside that haystack. And then we can point you right to it. We can go from the macro views down to the micro views, and we can automate this so you don't miss any important messages or any important pieces of information that come out across social media. So no, we don't see this as slowing down. We see it as accelerating. And a lot of the techniques that we pioneered through the Smart system can be applied into other verticals, and we will definitely be looking through that.
Smart's always been, up until now, it seems like an enterprise level solution. At what point does it, or ever, maybe it's always going to stay enterprise because enterprise is the biggest money and they're, that never ending. At what point, at some point, does it become available to Agoracom and ABC widgets for their own purpose, more like artificial intelligence as a service, because you're not, we're not big enough for $40 million contracts, let's say, but does it get to that point?
At some point, yeah, it does get commoditized. Okay. Now that's not going to be, in the short or midterm, I don't think, but as technology advances, it does tend to get commoditized. And, this has been proven throughout history. When a television first came out, it was a luxury item. Now people have 5 or 6 of them in their homes, right? It's not a big deal. I mean, something everybody's familiar with is the smartphone, right? They used to come in a briefcase and you saw them on MacGyver. Now everybody's got one in your pocket, and it's more powerful than the rocket we sent people to the moon on, right? So yeah, smart will get commoditized. Is that soon? No.
Minimum
Could we?
5 years at least.
No,
Holy
no, no,
crap.
no. It's going to go faster than that. I
Think so,
definitely see
huh?
go faster than that. Yes, this type of technology will enter, consumer space. My prediction, don't hold it in stone. If I could predict the future, I'd just play the lottery. Um, uh, but within a few years, I would think these types of technologies are going to start seeing seeing their way into the general public's hands, and smart itself could very well do
And
that.
thanks to that conversation, I think that was important because we couldn't go over the details. Usually what we do is talk about the details within this government project, but your hands are tied, which means our hands are tied. But at least
Yeah.
it gives people an idea surrounding smart and why it's probably so valuable to on this government project.
Yeah, and just to be clear, as those details do become available, we will be sharing them with the general public. It's, but as of right now, those details are still being worked out, what we can and cannot say.
So let's move on to the next piece of news, which I've got to believe this $40 million project probably was the final catalyst, even though I'm sure you guys have been discussed for a long time. And that's Datametrex initiates to move to the TSX main board. So why now? Because you've had plenty of opportunity before this with some incredible quarterly and 9-month numbers. Why is this the right time to make the move? And let's talk about potential ETAs. Not going to lock you down on specific dates, but what that timeline and process looks like.
Sure. So let's tackle that in 2 stages. So let's start with why now? This is the first question. Okay, so the past couple of years we've spent really solidifying the company, and before we made any major moves across, exchanges or major company changes or anything like that, we really wanted to be totally grounded. And we feel as a group that right now we are totally grounded. We have the financing. Okay, so we've got our bank accounts look good. Our books look good. We've talked about that before here, but our books needed cleaning up. We cleaned those up rather well. And now, announcing these contracts we have over the past few weeks coming into the new year, we know we're on sound ground going forward. And so with all those things happening at the same time, we, as a management group and as a board of directors, we feel that now is the time to move forward with this initiative, and sort of graduate the company. Because we feel like at this stage, it's time to graduate.
We've had a few clients kind of graduate, from the venture to the big board TSX. Mm-hmm. And a big requirement there, we've seen a few times. Some of my clients have had to actually go and raise money because they got to meet a $10 million minimum threshold, or they've got to show enough cash on hand that they can operate their businesses for, I can't remember what the period of time is, 1 year, 18 months, but they've got to show that. Let's talk about that, because you have to announce that. You've had to announce that. What does your cash on hand look like? And do you have to go out and do more financing, or does that satisfy the big board that you've got the resources necessary to run your business unabated for the next, period of time?
Well, right now, we're sitting on around $20 million cash and cash equivalent. So as of right now, we should be pretty good. Now we're working our way through this process with the TSX. We've already started it. Everything is going well. If there are any other requirements that we don't know about, we'll definitively tell people. But as of right now, no, we're in good shape.
What should shareholders expect ballpark time wise? I know we're not going to pin you down to it, but you obviously you've been speaking to your board, your lawyers, your bankers. Have they given you a ballpark range, 4 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months? Anything that we can you can tell us about that?
It's a ballpark range. You're looking out 4 to 6 months, something like that. It's this isn't a fast process, right? No. There's a lot of paperwork involved and a lot of scrutiny involved. And the fact that we've been given the go ahead, I think, is a great validation of the company. And it's also something that, like I said earlier, it's the right time. So let's go ahead and start that process. Let's get started on eating into those 6 months and, get it done.
How far does that $20 million take you, Marshall? That's a powerful balance sheet. There are very few small cap companies out there that have $20 million on the balance sheet. And by the way, almost all that has come in via your operations. We've seen cannabis companies that have had $20 million because they went out and did a ridiculous raise and just burned through all of it. But how far does that $20 million take you? And given the fact that you're a CEO and you're prudent, well, the great thing about you is you're prudent. You're not just throwing around nickels like manhole covers.
Well, no, that 20 million puts us in good shape for years to come. And I'm not talking about with just being prudent. Like, we're in a really good place right now that we can, start expanding. We've just brought on a new IR PR manager, and we're looking to get into a lot more public relations, a lot more investor relations, things like that. But even with all of these expanded initiatives inside the company, we're good for years.
You think there might be any new initiatives coming from that 20 mil? I mean, you've got enough firepower obviously right now, but are there any dream initiatives? Because it's AI, you guys have unbelievable capability, you have unbelievable brain power over there. Is there another part of AI that you're looking to go to, or do you have enough product and enough pipeline on the table that you're just going to stay laser focused on what you're doing right now?
Well, let's that answers in two parts. Number one, the brain trust is always looking for good ideas, right? So we're never going to turn a good idea down. As of right now, though, we're into, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 verticals that are going pretty heavy on the engineering side just as we speak. So in the next few months, that's highly unlikely. That being said, if there is a great opportunity and there's something we think that we might be able to expand the company with or generate some value on, we're definitely going to explore it. And if something like that does happen and becomes material, you guys will hear about it.
I guess at some point it'd probably be a pretty good idea to do what we call a beyond the deck, because there are so many great parts of Datametrex now that would be probably worth going through each of the segments, help people visualize so they can really hone in and on the total structure. Because on that note, you've got maybe this might not be a bad time for an update on Medical, Coin Analyzer, Entropy. Is it a good time maybe to do a quick update on those?
Sure, I can give a quick update on that. So Medical for everybody is going along rather well. So the apps and everything are feature complete. They're in full. They've been in beta testing for a couple months. And we're just shoring up the parts of the business, trying to get this ready for a launch, and which should be fairly soon. So, we're talking, just probably within, the next weeks and months that's going to be announced. We're right on the cusp. As far as Entropy is concerned, there's not a lot I can say about Entropy. This contract was signed right before the holidays. We're just coming back from the holidays. And there is a confidentiality clause that's being, what we can and cannot say.
Man, you're just surrounded by confidentiality clauses.
There's a lot of them, trust me.
Makes sense though. It's high technology and high application. It makes sense.
Yeah, they don't. When it comes to this stuff, this is all about competition and keeping your cards close to your chest for these pieces. You definitely don't want your competition knowing exactly what you're doing in there. But Entropy is shorting up really well. There's a lot of interest around this one. And there's already some R&D product being said, and we're only, like I said, a few weeks into it, if you discount half of December when everybody was gone. Sure. So the project is just, it's flying off the engineering tables. And as those, materials become, or things become more material, we will be, announcing that as they get cleared, et cetera. Coin Analyzer's in about the same state. So expect some news about those guys in the next few months, as those things are worked out and moving along. It's in roughly the same state though as Entropy. There's a lot of R&D rolling out. They're doing really well. The first passes are very encouraging.
Well, the great thing about Datametrex and you at the helm is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You don't rush anything, but you've proven time and again through 2 different divisions that you get it right and you're able to deliver. So I can't wait to actually see how those shore up, how those play out in 2022. And not to forget, it's great when we talk about big news like $40 million projects, TSX uplist, but you also announced, if any small cap company made this just one announcement in the first 2 weeks of January, they'd be ecstatic, right? But almost gets lost in the ether, which is $1.15 million purchase orders from Samsung and LOTTE. Tell us about how those relationships, that's a great sign. How are those relationships going? Because we all know who Samsung is. And for those who are new to the story, LOTTE is a multi-billion-dollar South Korean conglomerate where you've got, preferred partner status there. How well are those relationships going, and where do you see them going in 2022?
Well, those relationships are going really well. So let me explain how this type of stuff works in those land and expand strategies and what you're seeing here. So, we announced this 2 years ago, land and expand strategies with LOTTE Corporation. Okay. So the idea is with these large conglomerates that have, hundreds and hundreds of subsidiary companies and et cetera, is we want to get into one. And we want to do a really, 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 really good job. And then they'll tell all their friends about it. Well, that's what's happened in both of those companies. In fact, we're preferred vendor there. So when you see these contracts coming in that you see like the ones you're discussing, this is just expanding. They need more licensing. They need more seats. They need to move this into other divisions that they want to try to take a look at. And those initial forays are $1 million, $2 million here and there, and then they get re-upped. So that's exactly what we're seeing here. They just keep coming back and back and back, and that's our goal. That's what we're working for. And with 300 companies running around, that's a lot of math.
And when they keep coming back, that's a great sign, because
absolutely,
there's a real nice saying out there. It's easy to make a sale. Sales happen, but can you get the repeat orders? Because that's when the customer, the first time out, it's like, all right, I'm going to go with George here. He sounds like he's got something. But if they don't repeat, it means we don't have a solid business plan or a solid business model. Your clients are repeating with you, right? What comfort, what feelings should shareholders take from that? The fact that you've got some massive global conglomerates that keep repeating and re-upping.
Well, the thing that I take from it, and we would like to, let shareholders know about this, it means that we're rock solid. Okay. We're not going anywhere. This is not a flash in the pan. This is not something that, like you said, oh, it's going to explode for 5 minutes and then it's just going to go away a year later. No, we're here to stay. And it's not that we're just here to stay, we're growing. So as you see these new contracts come in, as $1 million here, 2 million there, 3 million there, this is just pure growth. And as long as we keep executing, it's going to stay.
Fair to say, last question, Marshall, how happy are you with how Datametrex is positioned from an operations point of view, customer pipeline, and technology point of view? Is it where you expected it to be a couple of years ago? Is it surpassed your expectations? And probably most importantly, given where you're at, what, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your outlook like for 2022, 2023 now?
So from, you're talking about operations and engineering and all that, I'd say we're light years ahead of where I expected us to be at this point, especially with, these last couple weeks and stuff, just really catapulted us into the stratosphere from where I saw us going, 2 years ago. As far as the outlook is concerned, we're going to take that momentum and we're going to drive it into 2022. And there are no plans to stop that. We have laid the groundwork for that in the past few months. I know it's been a little quiet. We haven't had as much material things to talk about. The real reasons for all of that is we were laying all the groundwork for this, making sure that everything was going to go off without a hitch. And as long as we continue to execute like that, 2022 is going to be an amazing year.
Well, Marshall, 2021 was an amazing year. Can't wait to see the final numbers once Q4 is in and audited and all that. But we already know from the first 9 months that you pretty much hit out of the park. Man, congratulations. Congratulations on this big win, kind of, being official, even though we don't have, it's, under confidentiality. So we can't really speak the details, but congratulations on that, everything across the board. And as always, we know how busy you are, but your shareholders, including us, love the fact and appreciate the fact you take the time out like this to talk to everyone and provide great content. Really appreciate it, man.
Not at all, George. It's just fun to be here.
Hey, you guys are having fun. That when you're winning, you're having fun, right? And you guys are winning. So looking forward to more winning and more fun in 2022.
Thanks, George.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Marshall Gunter, he's CEO of Datametrex AI, trades in Canada under DM for our friends in the US, DTMXF, and for our friends in Europe on Frankfurt under D4G. If you're new to the story, if you believe in the future of artificial intelligence, if you believe in the future of social media monitoring and reporting and AI-driven reporting and all that, then you've got to do your due diligence on Datametrex. And 2 ways to do that is start at Agoracom, take a look at the company's profile page, because we know it's not the easiest story to understand because AI is new. That's not a fault of Datametrex, but a lot of new concepts here. So we got it broken down for you. And then from there, link over the company's website to do your really deep dive due diligence. And hopefully today you've discovered your next great small cap AI company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.
Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.